and a very good morning to everyone. My name is Luyolo Geza from South Africa, born and bred in Port Elizabeth, which is Nelson Mandela Bay now. Thanks Dr. Patia and thanks World HRD Congress. I was supposed to have been here before. A number of times I was invited, but situation and circumstances did not allow. And I'm glad to be here now. It's a very fruitful, very timely Congress that helps HR practitioners around the world. Institute of People Management, we deal with pretty much as a professional development board in South Africa, where we are responsible to grow and develop HR practitioners. Let's take a practical example. 1994, I did my first degree in psychology. But do you think, is it still relevant today? No, it's not. I've submitted my assignment handwritten at the time. Now you submit online. When I was doing my MBA 2017, you submit online assignment, and there's something called plagiarism, where they will be able to track and say whether is it your work, is it not your work, but in 1994 it was not. And the reason why Institute of People Management exists is to ensure that, like in aviation, pilots, they do recurrent training. Every time, every year, they go and they have new skills. The same is true for medical practitioners, the lawyers. So what about HR? That's basically our role. If I can briefly show you about my journey, I've been in different industries. I worked for General Motors, I worked for Volkswagen South Africa, I worked for the aviation business, Sasol, which is oil and gas, and then I was regional director, Africa, Turkey, and Dubai for DuPont International at some point in time for my career since. But it's not about that. The reason why I'm flagging this is to point out what types of skills, in terms of my topic, reskilling and upskilling for the future. When there was mass production, I worked for Delta and General Motors, there was mass production and there was a shift to lean production. And there were different skill sets that were needed. The organization needed to do training and development or upskilling, and also reskilling, meaning that new skills in terms of lean manufacturing, because there was a big shift from big production numbers to small production numbers, and then employees have to be multi-skilled. When I worked for aviation as well, each and every time an aircraft, different aircraft type is bought, pilots, cabin crew, engineers, avionics, they had to be taught new skills, additional skills, or new skills in terms of flying those jets wherever they go in the world. In most cases, often than not, pilots are always fit, or aircrafts are always fit for landing. Why? It's because of skilling and reskilling. Pandemic, post-pandemic, called for reskilling and upskilling in different organizations. Because of automation, digitization, we've seen in South Africa, there was basically a change. If you go to Kentucky Fried Chicken to buy your chicken, you no longer now see somebody or someone who assists you, but a robot or an automated machine will be able to assist you. When I worked for DuPont, I was also responsible for expatriates growing in Africa and ensuring that I develop legal entities in Africa and ensuring that it's capable of delivering the agenda in terms of the right set of skills and the workforce, which was science and gas industry. So why reskilling? Because we need our workforce to adapt and also be agile to deliver the agenda. I'm not going to go through the points of discussion, but why is it important to reskill in organizations. What also is important is the framework. We need to have necessary frameworks for development. We need to do planning. We need to ensure that we fuse that with performance management. We need to ensure that we infuse that with total rewards, and fuse that with succession planning, and fuse that with your entire workforce development. When I worked for Gautrain, which I'll talk about it later, which is South Africa's first speed rail, or Africa's first speed rail, we had to do research in different countries. We went to Singapore, we went to UK, we went to the US, and understand the US challenges was that the fleet was old. UK, the fleet was old. Singapore, the fleet was basically current. We can be able to do our studies and adjust to the current times in the African market. But what that meant for the organization was that we needed skills. We needed different types of skills for leadership to drive the organization from where the organization was to where the organization was going. What that meant, it meant that we had to do an assessment, understand where the organization capabilities were, and also understand where the business capabilities were and the individual capabilities were, and what were the gaps, and how do we then come up with intervention to close those gaps and be able to help the organization to deliver the agenda. So when you're talking about skilling, upskilling, you can't divorce it from having an agile talent management strategy that will help you and help your organization or your teams to deliver the agenda. So that is also very, very important. What is also important is to ensure that you digitize. You digitize the organization. We spoke about data. Yesterday I've asked you a question. How do you ensure that you use AI for data mining, especially for training and development? Once you have your individual development plan, you have what the organization is going in terms of the strategic plan, then you need to link that. What are the gaps? What are the capabilities needed? And how do you ensure that your employees are capable of taking your organization where is it going to go in terms of productivity, in terms of corporate performance, and also in terms of achieving strategic imperatives. Then how can we do this? How can we go about doing that? This particular day and age, we've got gadgets. Whether it's your iPad, or whether it's your cell phone, or your tablet, or your laptop, we can be able, for example, to do training at home. After you've done family activities and everything, you can be able to do that at home. Wherever you go, you can be able to ensure that your employees are trained. And also, we can use WhatsApp. I've seen a lot of organizations using social networks for training, ensuring that it's versatile and is available anywhere, and whenever the employees feel like they can be able to train. And why is this important? Because sometimes training is forced and people are not motivated to do it. It might be giving you relevant skills, competencies, and capabilities to do your job and be flexible and be agile. However, the timing might not be perfect. But the tools and technologies we have today, you can be able, as a leader, be able to see the data, see where the gaps are, where the areas that needs attention, and you can be able to come up with necessary intervention. Very important also to introduce systems that they work. Buddy system, for example, for training, encourage staff to talk to each other, encourage each other, and also your mobile PDP or personal development plan, and also your individual development, which are basically available on their feet or on their hands. Leadership development strategy is important. I've mentioned it in terms of, as you reskill, we have seen the wave of change. We have seen the pandemic, we have seen 4IR, we have seen a couple of things. In South Africa, we had floods, for example, where employees were forced not to work at an official site, but to work on the third workplace or remotely or hybrid or wherever you call it. Do you have necessary tools, techniques? Does the organization have that to ensure that the organization is ready for the future? AI is here, automation is here, digitization is here. What is next for the organization or leadership to deliver your organization? So it's very vital that you help as an organization that everyone, it doesn't matter whether it's a leader or it's someone working on the shop floor. When I worked for Volkswagen, for example, there was, and Delta Motor Corporation, there was a program where you have to go online and train online and ensure that you make your mark. And making your mark, it doesn't matter whether you're a cleaner or you're a managing director or you're a director, you're a VP or a CEO of Volkswagen South Africa, but for an Audi or a Volkswagen Golf to roll out of assembly line, starting from a press shop to a final assembly where quality check is done, everyone had to deliver that agenda. Everyone had a mark. That meant that everyone had to be multi-skilled, different skills to deliver the agenda. Things are different now. Now organization needs to ensure that their workforce, there is proper planning for today and for tomorrow. Another example, when I joined Gautrain, which is the speed rail in South Africa, it was COVID time. The organization was not ready. The organization was ready in some other things. We were ready in terms of going remote. Our systems in terms of IT, the infrastructure was ready. In terms of data, in terms of internet, the organization was ready. But we were not ready in terms of how do we manage remote teams? How do we manage performance when you're doing it remote? So leadership had to be given new skills to be able to manage performance. For example, I'm going to make a loose example. The leadership was looking at sweat under the armpit to see somebody is moving around and is working. I'm using that very loosely. But now, when someone is at home, how do you ensure as an organization that you track, trace performance, and ensure that track and trace links to productivity? How do you ensure that track and trace links to bottom line? How do you ensure that track and trace talks to your succession planning? So new skills are needed. We have just now spoken about mental health. During that time, there was a lot of death. There was a lot of stress, working at home, with family, confined space, movement was difficult. So there was a lot of stress. Leaders were not equipped to deal with that. Managers were not equipped to deal with that. So reskilling and skilling is very important to ensure that the employees are kept agile and also ensure that you inculcate the culture of continuous learning. Why is it important? Very important to ensure that your organization is flexible, responsible to different types of change. It doesn't matter whether it's IT-related change, it's a pandemic, it's a recession, it might be terrorism, it might be anything that is a global threat, then your organization is agile to deliver the agenda. I think my time is slightly running out. So I'm going to look at the case of Citibank. What did they do to ensure that they encourage a culture of life learning? They had campaigns. They had campaigns, different campaigns, to ensure that they support their employees. One was a daily 10-minute micro actions that employees had to do. And also they had a 30-day development challenge to ensure that they inculcate the culture of continuous learning. Also a peer-to-peer connection in terms of ensuring that there's that motivation, there's that support from your peers to encourage a learning organization. Driving organizational success, how can you do that? Through reskilling and upskilling. We spoke about this. Organizational capability, you look at your business unit capabilities and then individual. Let me make an example. I have worked for a science organization. Got somebody who's a science PhD, nanotechnology, working with specialized science. However, the leader does not have necessary skills in terms of leading teams, in terms of the commercial side of things. But the leader is a specialist in driving nanotechnology agenda. What does the organization do? You assess where the leader is. You assess what the leader is supposed to deliver. And then you see, which is a training and needs analysis. And then you see where the gaps are. And then you put a training in place. We did the same thing for our speed rail train. We did the same thing for our oil and gas organization. With our oil and gas organization, where we had a lot of scientists in terms of your chemical engineering, agronomists, mining engineers for Sasol coal, Sasol oil, we had chemical engineers and so on, to get the organization to deliver and also ensure that additional skills, new skills on a continuous basis are on the pipeline. So you look at the individual, you look at the business units, you look at cross-functional teams, ensure that you've got framework, you've got approach, and everyone can be able to use whether automated systems or your paper and depending on the type of workforce we have. In South Africa, we've got the first world side of things, and then we've got also the third world side of things. So as much as we digitize, we're still facing the challenges of about 60% of our workforce is not capable or does not have the necessary tools, the techniques to be able to talk AI and be able to be part and parcel of where the world is going. However, we've got lots of multinational corporations that are in South Africa, be it in the US, Europe, Asia, and anywhere else in the world that are there, also ensuring that there's a shift in our space. So we talk AI, but in the very same token, we are aware of the challenges that we have in terms of individuals and some of the organization within the space. We spoke about Volkswagen, we spoke about Gautrain, we spoke about DuPont. But on mental health, I just want to close, this is a last slide. On mental health, I think it's one of the global nightmares that is there, where leaders, everyone in the organization need to be capacitated. Think about this. You've got someone who is your high performer. He is a project leader in a different space. However, he's facing different ugly realities, which might be a loss of a loved one. It might be sickness. It might be a war in Ukraine. It might be a war in Russia. That person still needs to be a high flyer. They still need to deliver the agenda nonetheless. How do you keep motivational levels in that particular situation? How do you ensure that as much as people are competent, as we are saying this is a high flyer, competent, hit the ground running, but in the very same token, the mind is not fit for purpose, not fit to deliver the agenda. And that's basically me. Thank you so much. So we need to reskill and upskill.